Hi, I am Sophia. Welcome to True Payback, where story hits different. Hit subscribe. Let's dive in.
The call came on a Tuesday afternoon while I was reviewing quarterly reports in my downtown office. Dad's voice had that practiced corporate tone he used when delivering bad news to underperforming employees. "Jessica, about the retirement gala next month," he started. "No greeting. No small talk. Just business. Always business with Richard Anderson. We've decided it's best if you don't attend." I set down my pen. "I'm your daughter. And I'm aware of that." His voice carried that familiar edge of disappointment. "But this is a career-defining event. The entire board will be there. Partners from our biggest client accounts. The governor's chief of staff. We're maintaining prestige, Jessica. Having you there would just look unprofessional." 28 years of similar conversations should have made me immune to the sting. They hadn't. "Unprofessional," I repeated quietly. "You understand. It wasn't a question. Your lifestyle choices, your appearance, the fact that you still don't have a real career at 32. It sends a message. And at my retirement celebration, I need to send the right message." In the background, I heard Mom's voice. "Richard's right, sweetheart. This is important for the family's reputation." The family's reputation. Code 4. Don't embarrass your father in front of people who matter. I hung up without another word. For exactly 90 seconds I sat in silence, looking out at the Chicago skyline. Then I picked up my phone and opened my secure messaging app. "Marcus," I typed to my wealth manager. "Pull all funding from Anderson Consulting Partners. Effective immediately. Complete withdrawal of the $5.7 million credit facility." His response came in under a minute. "Confirmed. Executing now. Do you want the withdrawal traced to your identity or kept anonymous as usual?" "Anonymous for now," I replied. "But that will change soon." I set my phone down and returned to my reports. I had 3 other portfolio companies to review before the day ended. Growing up as Richard Anderson's daughter meant growing up in his shadow. And Richard Anderson cast a very long shadow. He built Anderson Consulting Partners from nothing. Or so the family story went. In reality, he'd inherited his father's small accounting firm and transformed it into a mid-tier consulting company. Respectable. Profitable. But not extraordinary. What was extraordinary was his ego. Every childhood memory I had involved Dad explaining why I wasn't good enough. Wrong clothes for the country club. Wrong friends from the wrong neighborhoods. Wrong interests that didn't align with the Anderson image. "You're a reflection of me," he'd say. "Everything you do, people associate with my name. Act accordingly." I tried. God, did I try. Straight A's through high school. Captain of the debate team. Early admission to Northwestern. I thought if I just achieved enough, accomplished enough, he'd finally see me as worthy. Instead, he found new ways I disappointed him. My major was wrong. Communications? That's not a serious degree, Jessica. Business or law? Those are real careers. My internships were wrong. A nonprofit? You're wasting your potential on feel-good nonsense. My appearance was wrong. You need to lose 15 pounds before the partners' dinner. First impressions matter. The breaking point came during my senior year. I'd been accepted to 3 graduate programs: Harvard, Stanford, and Wharton. I was celebrating with friends when Dad called. "I'm not paying for more school," he announced. "You've had 4 years to figure out your life. Time to get a real job." "But Dad, it's Harvard." "I don't care if it's Oxford. No more money for degrees that won't lead anywhere. You want to keep studying? Pay for it yourself." He hung up. I sat in my dorm room looking at those acceptance letters and made a decision that changed everything. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to explain. I was going to disappear from his radar entirely and build something he could never diminish. My roommate's older brother, David Chin, worked in venture capital. We'd met a few times at family weekends and he'd always been kind to me. Seen something in me that my own father couldn't. I called him the day after Dad's rejection. "I need a job," I told him. "Something real. Something where I can learn." David didn't ask questions. "Come to San Francisco. I'll get you an interview with our portfolio operations team." 3 weeks later, I started as a junior analyst at Meridian Ventures, making $52,000 a year. I shared a studio apartment with 2 other women in Oakland. I ate ramen 4 nights a week. My father would have been mortified. I'd never been happier. David became my mentor. He taught me how to read balance sheets, how to spot promising startups, how to ask the questions that revealed whether founders were visionaries or just good salespeople. You have instincts, he told me after 6 months. You see patterns other analysts miss. Within a year, I'd identified 3 investments that returned 300% or better. The partners noticed. By year 2, I was leading due diligence on mid-stage deals. By year 3, David approached me with an opportunity. We're spinning off a new fund focused on undervalued service companies, he explained. Consulting firms, marketing agencies, professional services. Businesses that have steady cash flow but need capital to scale. I want you to co-manage it with me. Me. I was 26. Most fund managers had a decade more experience. Your track record speaks for itself. Plus, you understand these businesses. You grew up around one. The irony wasn't lost on me. We launched the Apex Growth Fund with $45 million in committed capital. I owned 15% of the management company. It was the first time I'd had real equity in anything. Our strategy was simple. Find profitable but capital-constrained professional services firms, provide growth financing at reasonable terms and help them scale. We'd take minority stakes, never controlling positions, and work as partners, not overlords. Within 18 months, we deployed $38 million across 12 companies. Every single one was cash flow positive. Our returns attracted attention. By year 2, we raised an additional $120 million. By year 4, we were managing $340 million across 43 portfolio companies. I kept my personal life completely separate from my family. As far as Dad knew, I was still figuring things out in California. I sent birthday cards, made the occasional call, kept the relationship cordial but distant. He never asked what I actually did. I never volunteered. Meanwhile, I'd made my first real money. The management fees and carried interest from our successful exits had built my personal net worth to $8.3 million by the time I turned 30. Then Anderson Consulting Partners came across my desk. Dad's firm had a problem. They'd grown too fast, taken on too much overhead, and were now cash-strapped despite healthy revenue. They needed capital to restructure their debt and fund a technology upgrade that would keep them competitive. The deal memo landed in my queue marked as a potential opportunity. Mid-market consulting firm, strong client relationships, needs $6 million for digital transformation and debt refinancing. I read the name and felt my heart stop. Anderson Consulting Partners. I pulled the full file. Read every page of their financial statements, their client contracts, their growth projections. My father's signature appeared throughout the documents as CEO and majority owner. The company was solid. Not spectacular but solid. The kind of stable cash-generating business we typically loved. Their projections were reasonable, their client retention was strong, and they had real growth potential if they could modernize their service delivery. It was a good investment. David noticed me studying the file for the 3rd day in a row. You know this company? He asked. It's my father's firm. He sat down across from me. That complicates things. Does it? I looked up. If we strip away the personal connection, would we invest? Probably. The fundamentals are there. But Jessica, investing in your father's company. Anonymously, I interrupted. Through a blind trust structure. He'd never know the capital came from me. We've done it before with sensitive situations. David studied me carefully. Why? I considered the question. Why invest in a company run by a man who'd spent my entire life telling me I wasn't good enough? Because it's a good deal, I said finally. And because I want to prove I can separate business from emotion. Isn't that what he always said? Business is business. We structured it perfectly. The capital came through Apex Strategic Holdings, a subsidiary fund that obscured the original investors. We provided $5.7 million in mezzanine financing, enough to solve their immediate problems and fund their growth initiatives. In exchange, we took a 12% equity position and a seat on their advisory board, which I assigned to one of our operating partners. Dad never knew his daughter was his largest outside investor. That was 2 years ago. The retirement gala invitation arrived 6 weeks before the event. Heavy cardstock, embossed lettering, the kind of ostentatious display Dad loved. You are cordially invited to celebrate the distinguished career of Richard Anderson, founder and CEO of Anderson Consulting Partners. I called Mom first. Got the invitation. Looking forward to it. Oh, sweetheart, about that. Her voice had that careful tone she used when Dad had made a decision she didn't want to defend but would anyway. Your father and I have been talking. My stomach tightened. Talking about what? Well, this event is very important. The board members are flying in from 3 different countries. The governor's office is sending representatives. Dad's biggest clients will be there. It's really more of a professional event than a family celebration. I'm his daughter, Mom. I know, honey. But you know how your father is about optics. And with your situation. My situation? She sighed. Jessica, you're 32 and you still haven't established a real career. You're living in that tiny apartment in Oakland. You won't tell us what you actually do for work. Your father's worked his entire life to build his reputation, and at this event, I'll make him look bad, I finished. That's what you're saying. That's not. We just think it might be easier if you sat this one out. There will be other family events. Smaller things. This is just so high profile and... I hung up. 10 minutes later, Dad called. I almost didn't answer. Your mother said you were upset, he started. Was she wrong? Jessica, this isn't personal. This is a business decision. My retirement gala is the culmination of 40 years of work. Every person in that room will be someone who matters to my legacy. I need to present a certain image. And I don't fit that image. You've made choices, he said. Living across the country. Refusing to pursue a serious career. Keeping us at arm's length. Those are your choices and you're entitled to make them. But they have consequences. The consequence being I'm not welcome at my own father's retirement party. His voice hardened. We're maintaining prestige, Jessica. Board members are flying in. Having you there would just look unprofessional. Surely you can understand that. In the background, Mom's voice. Richard's right, sweetheart. This is important for the family's reputation. For a moment I couldn't speak. Not because I was hurt. I'd been hurt by my father too many times to count. But because of the stunning clarity of the moment. He still had no idea who I was. What I'd built. What I was capable of. And he'd just made it clear he never wanted to know. I understand perfectly, I said. Then I hung up for the last time. I sat at my desk for exactly 90 seconds, feeling the familiar weight of my father's disappointment settle over me like it had 1,000 times before. Then I picked up my phone. The text to Marcus, my wealth manager, was simple. Pull all funding from Anderson Consulting Partners. Effective immediately. Complete withdrawal of the $5.7 million credit facility. His response came within 60 seconds. Confirmed. Executing now. Do you want the withdrawal traced to your identity or kept anonymous as usual? I paused. The smart play was to keep it anonymous. Let the consequences speak for themselves without the personal connection. But I'd been silent for too long. Anonymous for now, I typed. But that will change soon. I forwarded the message thread to our legal team with additional instructions. Prepare full disclosure of my identity as primary investor. I'll tell you when to release it. Then I called David. I just pulled our funding from Anderson Consulting, I said without preamble. Silence on the other end. Then, your father's company. Yes. Jessica, that's a $5.7 million withdrawal. It'll trigger immediate liquidity issues for them. Possibly default on their senior debt. You understand what you're doing? I understand exactly what I'm doing. He doesn't want me at his retirement gala because I'd look unprofessional. I'm simply making a business decision. Isn't that what he taught me? Separate emotion from business. More silence. Then David's voice, careful. Do you want to talk about this? No, I said. I want to watch what happens when a man who values prestige over family learns that his daughter became exactly what he never believed she could be. I heard him exhale. Hey, I'm here if you need me. I know. Thank you. I hung up and opened my laptop. Our portfolio management system showed the withdrawal order processing in real time. Within 3 hours, the full $5.7 million would be pulled from Anderson Consulting Partners' credit facility. They'd built their entire technology transformation around that capital. The debt restructuring they'd planned depended on it. Without it, they'd face immediate cash flow problems and potential default on their senior obligations. I didn't feel guilt. I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt tired. Tired of trying to earn love from someone constitutionally incapable of giving it. Tired of hiding my success to avoid making him uncomfortable. Tired of being treated as an embarrassment by a man whose company I'd literally saved 2 years ago without his knowledge. My phone buzzed. A text from my half-sister, Amanda, Dad's daughter from his first marriage. Did Dad really uninvite you from the gala? Mom just told me. I'm so sorry. I stared at the message. Amanda and I weren't close, 15-year age gap, different mothers, different lives. But she'd always been kind. It's fine, I typed back. His choice. It's not fine. It's horrible. I'm going to talk to him. Don't. It won't change anything. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, you deserve better. I set the phone down and went back to my reports. I had work to do. Dad's call came at 4:47 p.m., exactly 3 hours and 12 minutes after I'd authorized the withdrawal. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Jessica. His voice was different. Tighter. The corporate smooth was gone. I need you to explain something to me. What's that? I just got off the phone with our CFO. Our primary credit facility has been terminated. $5.7 million pulled without warning. The capital we were depending on for our entire digital transformation. Gone. I said nothing. The withdrawal came from something called Apex Strategic Holdings. That name means nothing to me, but my CFO says it's related to a venture capital fund. Apex Growth Fund. My heart rate didn't change. I'd prepared for this moment for 3 hours. I'm calling everyone I know in the San Francisco investment community, he continued. Someone must know who's behind this fund. Someone must know why they'd suddenly pull funding from a performing asset. This makes no business sense. Unless. He trailed off. Unless what? I asked quietly. Unless this is personal. Unless someone is trying to sabotage my retirement. Someone with a grudge. That seems paranoid, Dad. Then explain it to me. His voice rose. We've never missed a payment. Our performance has exceeded projections. There's no business reason for this withdrawal. So either they're incompetent or this is deliberate. I looked out my office window at the San Francisco skyline. Somewhere out there, David was probably getting similar calls from Dad's desperate networking attempts. Have you considered, I said carefully, that maybe they just don't want to be associated with you anymore? Silence. Then, what does that mean? It means people make decisions based on more than just numbers, Dad. Sometimes character matters. Reputation matters. How you treat people matters. Are you seriously lecturing me about reputation right now? You who won't even tell your own family what you do for a living. I'm a partner at Apex Growth Fund, I said. The words came out calm, measured. I co-manage a $340 million venture capital fund focused on professional services companies. I've been doing this for 8 years. My personal net worth is $8.3 million. And 2 years ago, when your company desperately needed capital, I'm the one who provided it. The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. What? He finally said. Apex Strategic Holdings is our subsidiary fund. I personally reviewed your company's financials. I personally recommended the investment. I personally structured the deal that gave you $5.7 million when no one else would back you at reasonable terms. You've been spending my money for 2 years, Dad. Money I earned myself. Money you didn't think I was capable of earning because I don't have a real career. I heard him breathing. You're lying. I'm not. Call David Chin at Meridian Ventures. He'll confirm everything. Or call your CFO back and ask him to trace the Apex ownership structure. My name is on all the documents. You just never bothered to look. You can't. I can't what? Be successful without your permission? Build something without your guidance? Invest in companies without your approval? My voice stayed level. I've been doing all of that for 8 years. You just never noticed because you were too busy being disappointed in who you thought I was. If this is true, his voice had gone cold, then pulling the funding is a vindictive, childish move. You're sabotaging a good company because of personal grievances. I'm making a business decision, I said. I'm choosing not to be associated with someone who values prestige over family. Someone who uninvited his own daughter from his retirement party because she might look unprofessional. You taught me that business is business, remember? Emotion doesn't enter into it. Jessica, my decision is final. The withdrawal stands. You have 30 days to secure alternative financing before you default on your senior debt. I suggest you start making calls. Wait. Just wait. His voice shifted. If what you're saying is true, if you really are behind Apex, then we can work this out. Come to the gala. Of course you should come. I was hasty earlier. Your mother and I were just maintaining prestige, I finished. I remember. We can fix this. You can reinstate the funding, we'll give you better terms, a higher equity stake. We can structure this as a real partnership between father and daughter. No. Jessica, be reasonable. I've spent 32 years being reasonable. Being understanding. Making excuses for why you treat me like a disappointment. I'm done. I paused. You know what the saddest part is? I invested in your company because it was a good deal. Despite everything, I looked at your business objectively and decided it deserved capital. I separated my personal feelings from my professional judgment. That's what you always said mattered, right? Pure business decisions. Yes, but... So this is a pure business decision. I don't want to be in business with you anymore. You're too much of a reputation risk. I heard him inhale sharply. I'll call the board, he said, voice tight with barely controlled anger. I'll explain that my daughter is sabotaging the company out of spite. They'll understand this isn't a real business decision. Go ahead. And while you're explaining that to them, I'll release my identity as your primary investor to the financial press. I'll explain that I provided capital to your struggling company 2 years ago when you couldn't secure it elsewhere. I'll detail how I saved your business while you were telling people I didn't have a real career. I wonder which story will better serve your precious reputation. The silence that followed was absolute. When he spoke again, his voice was barely above a whisper. You've become cruel. No, Dad. I learned from the best. You just never realized you were teaching me. I hung up. My hands were shaking. I set the phone down and stared at it, half expecting him to call back immediately. He didn't. Instead, 40 minutes later, my phone lit up with a text from Amanda. Dad just told me. Is it true? Are you really the investor? Yes, I typed back. Holy shit. Holy shit. Do you know what this means? That your father's retirement gala might need to be postponed? That you're a certified badass. Can I tell people my sister is a venture capitalist who just pulled $5.7 million from her own father's company because he was a dick to her? Despite everything, I smiled. Not yet. But soon. 3 dots then, I'm proud of you. For what it's worth. It was worth more than she knew. The next 72 hours moved fast. Hour 6. Dad called the board chairman in Munich trying to explain the funding withdrawal. The chairman, according to my sources, was concerned about the CEO's judgment, and called an emergency board meeting for the following week. Hour 12. Anderson Consulting's CFO sent out feelers to 3 major banks about emergency bridge financing. All 3 declined. The company's debt-to-equity ratio was already too high without the Apex credit facility. Hour 18. Mom called me 6 times. I didn't answer. She left increasingly frantic voicemails. Jessica, please. Your father is beside himself. Whatever happened between you two, the company has employees. People with families. You can't just... I deleted them without listening to the end. Hour 24. Private equity firms started circling. Word had gotten out that Anderson Consulting was in distress. They smelled blood in the water. Their offers were predictably predatory. Massive dilution, control provisions, liquidation preferences that would wipe out existing equity holders. Hour 36. Dad sent a 1-line email. What do you want? I didn't reply. Hour 48. The board meeting happened. I got a call from our operating partner who sat on their advisory board. They asked Richard to step down as CEO, he reported. Effective immediately. They're bringing in an interim executive to stabilize the situation. How did he take it? About as well as you'd expect. He said this was all your fault. That you were punishing him for a personal slight. The board wasn't sympathetic. No. They asked why he didn't know his own daughter was their primary investor. Asked what other critical business relationships he'd mismanaged due to personal issues. One of the German board members said something like, if you cannot maintain relationship with family, how can we trust you with clients? I closed my eyes. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I just felt hollow. Hour 52. Amanda called. Have you talked to him? No. He's a mess, Jess. I've never seen him like this. Mom says he's been in his study for 2 days straight making calls trying to fix this. That's not my problem. I know. I'm not asking you to fix it. I wanted you to know. Okay. For the record, he deserved this. What he said to you was unforgivable. Thanks. But Jessica? What happens now? That was the question. Hour 68. I got a call from David. Your father found me, he said. He's offering to buy you out. $9 million for your equity stake. Premium over the current valuation. No. He's also willing to sign a public statement acknowledging your role in saving the company. Give you credit. I don't want his credit. Then what do you want? I thought about that. What did I want? I'd proven my point. The whole Bay Area investment community now knew Richard Anderson's daughter was the venture capitalist who'd funded his company. The story was spreading, not publicly yet but through the whisper networks that mattered. I'd wanted him to see me. Mission accomplished. But now what? I want to make the right business decision, I said finally. What's best for the company, the employees, the other stakeholders? What would you do? David was quiet for a moment. The company is salvageable. With new leadership and proper capital structure it could thrive. But it needs stability. And your father as the face of the company right now is the opposite of stability. So I'd offer to convert your debt to equity. Become the majority shareholder. Bring in professional management. Give Richard an emeritus title and a consulting role that keeps him away from operations. Let him save some face while removing him from power. It was elegant. Practical. The kind of solution I'd recommend for any portfolio company in distress. Do it, I said. Hour 72. Our lawyers sent the proposal to Anderson Consulting's board. In exchange for converting our $5.7 million credit facility to equity and providing an additional $3 million in capital, Apex Growth Fund would own 51% of the company. Richard Anderson would become chairman emeritus with a generous consulting contract but no operational authority. The board would bring in a professional CEO. The alternative was bankruptcy. The board accepted within 4 hours. The retirement gala was postponed indefinitely. Instead, 3 weeks later, Anderson Consulting Partners held a leadership transition announcement at their downtown offices. The new CEO, a woman with 20 years of experience scaling consulting firms, stood at the podium and outlined the company's strategic direction. Dad sat in the front row, smiling tightly for photos, playing the role of proud founder stepping back to let the next generation lead. I sat in the back watching. After the presentation, Amanda found me. Are you going to talk to him? I don't know. As if summoned, Dad appeared. He looked older than I remembered. Tired. Jessica. Dad. We stood in awkward silence. Around us, people mingled, discussed the transition, speculated about the future. I suppose I should thank you, he said finally, for not destroying the company entirely. You could have. That was never the goal. Wasn't it? He looked at me with something I couldn't quite read. You took everything from me. My position, my control, my reputation. I took what you were willing to risk when you decided I wasn't worth having at your celebration, I interrupted. You gambled that I was nobody. That I'd built nothing. That I didn't matter. You lost that bet. He flinched. For what it's worth, he said quietly, I didn't know any of it. What you'd accomplished. What you were capable of. I should have asked. I should have seen you. Yes. You should have. Can you forgive me? I looked at this man who'd spent my whole life making me feel small. Who'd missed every part of my success because he was so certain I was failing. Who'd only wanted to know me once he realized I had value by his definition. I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe someday. But right now I'm not ready. He nodded slowly. I understand. For what it's worth, I'm proud of you. What you've built. Who you've become. I didn't do it for you, I said. I did it in spite of you. I walked away before he could respond. Outside, the San Francisco fog was rolling in. My phone buzzed with a message from David. Board meeting next week to finalize the transition. You planning to attend as majority shareholder? I smiled. Wouldn't miss it, I typed back. Because that's the thing about being underestimated your whole life. When you finally prove everyone wrong, you don't disappear again. You stand in your power. You take your seat at the table. And you make damn sure nobody ever questions whether you belong there. 6 months later, Anderson Consulting Partners, now ACP Strategic Advisory, had its most profitable quarter in company history. The new CEO had streamlined operations, won 3 major contracts, and built a reputation for excellence that didn't depend on one man's ego. I attended every board meeting. Not to gloat. Not to punish. But to remind myself that the girl who wasn't good enough for her father's retirement party had become the woman who owned 51% of his legacy. And that was more than enough.